Good afternoon, dear students. Welcome back to the NEET webinar class for zoology subject. As we know that we have already, we are discussing the chapter breathing and respiration, right? So in the previous session, we have dealt with transport of oxygen. So we have completed the transport of oxygen in the humans. And the next topic will be transport of carbon dioxide. But before going to the transport of carbon dioxide, we'll discuss some of the questions related to this topic. Okay. So the first question is, lungs are made up of air-filled sacs, the alveoli. They do not collapse even after forceful expiration because of. So once again, I repeat the question. Lungs are made up of air-filled sacs called the alveoli. We have already discussed what is alveoli, right? So they are filled by the air sacs. They do not collapse even after forceful expiration. Right? We have also learned what is forceful expiration. Why they don't collapse even after the forceful expiration? That is due to expiratory reserve volume, due to inspiratory reserve volume, residual volume, or due to the tidal volume. So what will be the answer? The answer of this question is due to the residual volume. So we have learnt about different types of volume, tidal volume. We have learnt about the expiratory reserve volume, and we have learnt about the inspiratory reserve volume and the residual volume. What is residual volume? It is the volume of air which remains in the lung even after the forceful expiration. Even after the forceful expiration, the amount of air which remains in the lung is residual volume. So due to the presence of residual volume in the lungs will not get collapse. Okay, so that is the correct answer, because if everything from the lungs will be removed, all the air from the lungs will be removed, then the lungs will collapse completely. But it's not the case. It's not happening. In the lungs, there will be always some amount of air will be always present. Okay, some volume of air will be always present in the lung even after the forceful expiration, and that volume of air is known as residual volume. Right. The next question is, lungs do not collapse between breaths and some airways remain in the lung. Some air always remains in the lung, which can never be expelled because there is a positive intrapleural pressure, there is negative intrapleural pressure, there is pulling, there is pressure, there is negative intrapleural pressure pulling at the lung walls, or there is a negative pressure in the lungs, or pressure in the lungs is higher than the atmospheric pressure. So the correct answer will be, there is negative intrapleural pressure. There will be always negative intrapleural pressure in between the breaths. So in between the breaths, because of that is another reason why the lungs will not get collapse. Because of this negative intrapleural pressure, that is intrapleural pressure means pressure inside the lung compared to the pressure outside the atmosphere air. So there is negative intrapleural pressure at that time. That's why, and this negative intrapleural pressure will pull the lung walls. So because of this pulling of the lung walls due to the negative intrapleural pressure, there will not be any collapsing of the lungs between the breaths. So the correct answer is B. Feature of anaerobic respiration is, what are the features of anaerobic respiration? Occurs in the presence of oxygen, complete breakdown of organic molecule take place, less yield of energy, or carbon dioxide is not liberated. So anaerobic respiration. What is anaerobic respiration? It takes place in the absence of oxygen. So first option cannot be correct because it says it is in the presence of oxygen. So that is the wrong statement. Complete breakdown of organic molecules will take place. What we have seen in the anaerobic respiration, we have seen the that is glucose. There is no oxygen, so glucose will be broken down. Glucose will be broken down into alcohol. It can be ethyl alcohol or it can be lactic acid. But there is no carbon dioxide is not produced here, right? Plus energy, a less amount of energy will be produced less. So it is not, glucose is not getting completely broken down. Glucose is not getting completely broken down. Because of that, the second option will also be a wrong statement. So second one answer option, what does it say? Complete breakdown of organic molecule. Complete breakdown of organic molecules will always take place in the aerobic respiration, where the glucose is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water. But here in the anaerobic respiration, it gets converted into ethyl alcohol and lactic acid, which is not complete breakdown of the glucose, right? So that is also not the correct answer. So next one is, it yields less amount of energy. So yes, that is the correct one. If we see normal respiration, it releases 36 ATP, right? But here, that is aerobic respiration, it releases 36 ATP. But here in this one, it is releasing only 2 ATP molecule. It is releasing only 2 ATP molecule in the anaerobic respiration, which is very much less when compared to the aerobic respiration. So the correct answer will be less yield of energy. And carbon dioxide is not liberated. Okay, so that is also carbon dioxide is not liberated in the process of anaerobic respiration. So these two are correct statement. That is both C and D are the correct statements. Next question is, correct set about respiratory organs is, earthworm and gills. Earthworm in the gills, sorry, in the earthworm there will be gills. Insect, they respire by the body surface. Aquatic arthropods respire by tracheae. Scorpio by book lungs. So earthworm gills, it is the wrong statement, because earthworms will respire by the body surface, or they'll undergo cutaneous respiration. That is respiration through skin. So that is a wrong statement. Insect by body surface, so it's wrong. Insects will have tracheae for the process of respiration. Then aquatic arthropods and tracheae, that is also a wrong statement, because the aquatic arthropods will have gills for the process of respiration. Scorpion and book lungs, so that is correct statement. In the Scorpio, the type of respiratory organ seen is book lungs. The correct answer is Scorpio, book lungs. Next question. Amphibian larvae respires through. Amphibian larvae respires through. First is gills, second one is lungs, third one is skin, and fourth one is tracheae. Amphibian larvae means, one of the example is, it is the what is that larva? Trochophore larva, right? So that larva will undergo respiration with the help of gills, right? They will respire through the gills because they are aquatic in nature. The amphibian larva is, they are living in the water, they are aquatic. So when they are aquatic, they have to respire through the gills, because they cannot take atmospheric oxygen. So they have to take the dissolved oxygen, which will be taken through the gills. So the respiratory organ in amphibian larvae is the gills. Next, elephant seal can remain underwater for longer period because of having high amount of. So elephant seal, these are the mammals. Uh, these are the mammals which live in the water, but they come on the surface of water for the process of respiration, because they have to take atmospheric oxygen only. They cannot take the dissolved oxygen. Okay. So hemoglobin in RBC. So they can remain underwater for longer time because of the presence of high amount of hemoglobin in RBC or high amount of myoglobin in RBC, Myoglobin in muscles or larger alveolar sacs. So the correct answer is due to the presence of more number of myoglobin in the muscles. So myoglobin is one of the respiratory pigment. It will store the oxygen. Myoglobin is present in the muscles, and these are the muscles pigment, and they will be storing the oxygen. Okay, so due to presence of high amount of myoglobin in the muscles, the elephant seal can remain in the water for the longer time. So the correct answer is 3. Next question is mountain sickness is due to lack of hemoglobin in RBC, lack of oxygen in air, more amount of nitrogen, or low PO2. So it is due to the low partial pressure of oxygen in that atmosphere, because as we reach at the higher altitude, the partial pressure of oxygen, that is PO2, will decrease. As the height increases, the partial pressure of oxygen decreases. So because of that, there will be mountain sickness. We have discussed what is mountain sickness. The people will be, due to the less availability of oxygen in the body, those people will suffer due to nausea or giddiness. All those are the symptoms of mountain sickness. And after that, their body will get acclimatized by increasing the number of hemoglobin and number of RBC in their blood. And those people who are already living in that mountain region or in the higher altitude regions, they will have already their body is acclimatized, and they already have more number of RBC and more number of hemoglobin, so that they can carry more and more amount of oxygen to the different parts of the body, and they'll not feel the mountain sickness. Next question. Chloride shifts involve the diffusion of chloride into RBC at lungs, chloride into plasma at tissues, chloride into RBC at tissues, or chloride into plasma at the lungs. So the correct answer is chloride into RBC. So the chloride ions will move into RBC at the tissue level. The next topic is transport of carbon dioxide by blood. So we have already discussed the transportation of oxygen in the blood, right? Now the carbon dioxide transportation process we will see. So the carbon dioxide transport by blood is much easier than that of oxygen. Why it is much easier than that of oxygen is due to high solubility of carbon dioxide in water. So carbon dioxide is highly soluble in water as compared to the oxygen. This carbon dioxide is about 20 times that of oxygen. Means solubility of carbon dioxide in the water is 20 times higher than that of oxygen. So that is another reason why it is very much easier for transportation of carbon dioxide by the blood, because it dissolves in the blood plasma and it gets transported. Each deciliter of blood can carry about 3.7 ml of carbon dioxide. Okay. The carbon dioxide is transported in blood in 3 ways. One is 7% dissolved in the plasma. So 7% of the carbon dioxide is transported when it is transported in the form of dissolved carbon dioxide, that is, it gets dissolved in the blood plasma and as carbonic acid. Next, 23% bound to the hemoglobin. So 23% of the 23% of the carbon dioxide are bound in the they are transported in the form of carbamino hemoglobin. They are transported in the form of carbamino hemoglobin, and 70% as bicarbonates in the plasma following an enzyme catalyzed reaction in the red blood cells. So these are the 3 methods by which the carbon dioxide is transported. 7% in the form of dissolved plasma, 23% in the form of carbaminohemoglobin, that is transported through the hemoglobin, and 70% of it is transported in the form of bicarbonate, in the plasma. And that this formation of bicarbonate is due to it is an enzyme catalyzed reaction in the red blood cells. So RBC contains a very high concentration of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. Okay, RBC contains very high concentration of, so there is an enzyme known as carbonic anhydrase, which is present in high amount, very high concentration in the RBCs, and very minute quantity of it is also seen in the blood plasma. So this carbonic anhydrase is seen in both blood plasma as well as in the RBC, but in the RBC the amount is more when compared to the blood plasma. And this enzyme facilitates the following reactions in both directions. So here what it does is, it will convert the carbon dioxide, the carbon dioxide will combine with the water to form H2CO3, and then it will get dissolved. This H2CO3 will get dissociated to form HCO3 minus plus H plus. So this reaction is catalyzed by carbonic anhydrase. This carbonic anhydrase is the catalyst here, or it is the enzyme, we can say. Carbonic anhydrase is the enzyme which will catalyze this reaction. That is, it will convert the carbon dioxide and water to H2CO3, and again it will dissociate them into HCO3 plus H minus. So this is how it gets converted. And at the tissue sites where the partial pressure of PCO2 is high due to catabolism. And this reaction will be at which side? Because what we have seen, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide will be high in the tissues and partial pressure of oxygen will be less. At the tissue level, if you see the partial pressure of PCO2, what is PCO2 at the tissue level? We have learned that PCO2 at the tissue level is 45 and PO2 at the tissue level is 40. So which one is high? It is the carbon dioxide is high. So this carbon dioxide will combine with the water, and why it is high? Because of the catabolism, that is due to the respiration process. Due to the respiration process, glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water, and because of that, that process is known as catabolism, and because of that, the CO2 is high in the tissue level. And this carbon dioxide will diffuse into the blood, in the RBC and plasma, and it will form the HCO3 minus and H plus. At the tissue site where partial pressure of PCO2 is high due to catabolism, this carbon dioxide will diffuse into the blood. Okay, and then it will diffuse into the blood both in the RBCs and in the plasma, and it will form HCO3 minus and H plus. And at the alveolar site where PCO2 is low, so PCO2 at the alveolar site will be 40, and the PO2 at the alveolar site will be 141, right? So 121. So at that region, because as PCO2 is less, the reaction will proceed in the opposite direction, which leads to the formation of carbon dioxide and water. And CO2 is trapped as bicarbonate at the tissue level and transported to alveoli, is released out as carbon dioxide. Next, every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood delivers approximately 4 ml of carbon dioxide to the alveoli. So at every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood, which is going to the alveoli, it will deliver about 4 ml of carbon dioxide. And to maintain the electrostatic neutrality of plasma, many chloride ions will diffuse from plasma into the RBC and carbonate ion from RBC to plasma. So this is what we have seen in the chloride shift. The chloride ions will move from plasma into RBC, and carbonate ions will move from RBC to plasma. Right? The chloride shift. Chloride ion, this is RBC, this is plasma. So the chloride ions will move from RBC to plasma, NHCO3 minus, bicarbonate and carbonate ions will move from plasma to RBC. So this is the we have seen in the chloride shift. The chloride content of RBC increases because the chlorides, what is happening here, chlorides are coming from plasma to RBC. So because of this, chlorides number increases in the RBC, and because of this increase in the chloride number in the RBC, the chloride content of RBC increases when oxygenated blood becomes deoxygenated, and is called chloride shifts or Hamburger phenomenon. And because of this, chloride content of the red blood cells in the venous blood is therefore significantly it is greater in the arterial blood. So chloride content in the red blood cells chloride content in the red blood cells will be more when compared to the more in the venous blood when compared to the arterial blood, because venous blood is deoxygenated blood and arterial blood is oxygenated blood. So chloride content will be more in the venous blood when compared to the arterial blood. And chloride shifts occur rapidly and is essential for complete action. Next phenomenon is Halden effect. The Halden effect is promotion of carbon dioxide dissociation by oxygenation of hemoglobin. So here what is happening? Carbon dioxide is dissociating from the hemoglobin and it is combining with the oxygen. So it is forming the oxygenation of hemoglobin. And it is based on the simple fact that oxyhemoglobin behaves as strong acid and releases an excess of H plus ion, which will bind with the bicarbonate to form the H2CO3. And because of this, this H2CO3 will again dissociate into H2O and carbon dioxide. And also due to increased acidity of carbon dioxide, which loses the power to combine with the hemoglobin, and then it will form the carbamino hemoglobin. Okay. Next, we will discuss some of the questions related to this. Approximately 70% of carbon dioxide absorbed by the blood will be transported to the lungs as carbaminohemoglobin by binding to the RBC in the form of dissolved gas molecule or as bicarbonate ion. So what we have seen, 70%, highest amount of it is in the form of, they are transported in the form of bicarbonate ion. Only 7% will be in the form of RBC and only 10% will be with the carbaminohemoglobin, and 70% of it is in the form of carbon dioxide is transported in the form of as bicarbonates, which are. Next question. People who have migrated from the plains to an adjoining Rohtang Pass about 6 months back. Plains means lower altitude area, and Rohtang Pass, it is area which is at the higher altitude. So what will happen? What can we see in them? They are not physically fit to play games like football, have more RBCs in their hemoglobin, has a lower binding affinity to oxygen, have the usual RBC count, but their hemoglobin has very high affinity for oxygen, suffer from altitude sickness with symptoms like nausea and fatigue. So the correct answer will be, they have more number of RBCs. They will develop more number of RBC because they have come to the 6 months back. They have come to this area 6 months back. So in that time, they will be acquiring, they are getting acclimatized, and they are increasing the number of RBCs in their body, so that they can transport more and more amount of oxygen. Next question is, a large proportion of oxygen remains unused in the human blood even after its uptake by the body tissue. This oxygen, what will happen to them? It helps in releasing more oxygen to epithelial tissue, or is enough to keep oxyhemoglobin saturation at 96%. raises the PCO2 of blood to 75 mm of Hg, or act as a reserve during muscular exercise. So the correct answer is this: excess of oxygen which remains unused will be stored in the muscular. They will be stored in the myoglobin of the muscles tissue, and or they are stored or they are reserved in the body so that it can be utilized during the muscular exercise. So the correct answer is D. The large proportion of oxygen remains unused in the human blood even after its uptake by the tissue, because we don't need that much amount of oxygen. So excess of oxygen will be reserved and that will be used during the muscular exercise. Next question. Bulk of carbon dioxide released from body tissue into the blood is present as carbaminohemoglobin in RBC, 70% carbaminohemoglobin and 30% as bicarbonates, free carbon dioxide in blood plasma, or bicarbonate in blood plasma and RBC. The correct answer is it is the bicarbonate in blood plasma and RBC. Bulk of the carbon dioxide from the body tissue is present as bicarbonate in blood and RBC. What is true about RBC in humans? They transport about 80% oxygen and the rest of the 20% is transported in the dissolved state in blood plasma. They transport 99.5% of oxygen. They carry about 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide. They do not carry carbon dioxide at all. The correct answer is C. They carry about 20 to 25% of carbon dioxide. The hemoglobin of human fetus, its affinity for oxygen is same as that of an adult, has a lower affinity for oxygen than that of adult, has a higher affinity for oxygen than that of an adult, has only 2 protein subunits instead of 4. So the correct answer is C, that they have higher affinity for oxygen when compared to the adult, because they have to transport oxygen to all the parts of the body, because they don't respire on their own. They depend on the they depend for the process of respiration. Their lungs are not functional, so they take the oxygen from the mother's body, that is through the placenta. They'll get the oxygen, so that's why they will have higher affinity for the oxygen than that of an adult who can respire through their lungs. Next question is, pick the incorrect statement. The presence of non-respiratory air sacs increases the efficiency of respiration in birds. The presence of non-respiratory air sacs increases the efficiency of respiration in birds. Second is, the residual air in the lungs slightly decreases the efficiency of respiration in mammals. Third point is, the principle of counter current flow facilitates efficient respiration in gills of fishes. And fourth point is, in insects, circulating body fluids serve to distribute oxygen to tissue. So among this, what is the incorrect statement? There is no, okay. So if we see here, the presence of non-respiratory air sacs increases the efficiency of respiration in birds. So if you see the birds, they have so many respiratory air sacs, and these are non-respiratory air sacs. There are no exchange of gases which takes place in them. You must have learned about this in the first year, right? In the aves, they have non-respiratory air sacs, and because of this non-respiratory air sacs, they will store the excess amount of air or excess amount of oxygen, which increases the efficiency during flying. That's why they don't that's why they are able to fly continuously for hours together, because of the presence of stored oxygen in their air sacs. And the next one is, residual air in the lungs is slightly decreases the efficiency of it. So residual air, because it is the air which remains in the lung even after forceful expiration. So because of that, it is not available to the cells, right? So that will somewhat decrease the respiration in the mammals. Third point is the principle of counter current flow facilitates efficient respiration in the gills of fishes. So in the gills, there is a counter current flow, that is the flow of water is in the counter current. That is one way there will be blood transporting into the blood vessels, and other way in the gills there will be water. So there is their exchange of gases will take place from the gills to the, because in the gills there will be water and in the blood vessels there will be blood. So in that blood vessels have deoxygenated blood, and this oxygen will get exchanged by the process of diffusion there, because the carbon dioxide partial pressure will be more there in the blood and oxygen partial pressure will be more in the water. So because of this counter current flow, there will be efficient respiration in the gills of fishes. Last option is, in insects, circulating body fluid serves to distribute oxygen. It's not the case. The oxygen is distributed through the trachea, right? There are spiracles on their body surface. These spiracles are connected to the trachea, tube-like structures which are known as trachea, and these trachea are the ones which are useful for transporting or distributing the oxygen to each and every cell of the body in the insects. So this is the wrong statement and it is the incorrect statement. So that is the correct answer, that is D. So this is all about the questions related to the topics which we have discussed. And in the next class, we will discuss about the regulation of respiration, how the respiration is regulated in the humans. So it's better for you to follow to practice more and more questions related to this topic, so that you can understand what are the types of questions they are going to ask. Mostly the questions will be in the simple format, but some questions will be in the form of find out the incorrect statement or choose the correct answer, or correct, they'll give you different matches. In that matches you have to find the correct or wrong statement. Like that, these are the different modes of questions. You have to keep on practicing many number of questions related to the topic, so that you will get you will get used to the type of mode of the questions, and then you will be able to answer those questions easily. So with this we will conclude today's session, and we will see regulation of respiration in the next class. Okay. Sir, end the class.
Okay, madam.
Okay, madam.